the best two words they ever had, Game 7. And now they're past Game 7. These guys are fired up for sure.
Oh, and tell everybody, Pete, that might not have seen it, what he told the locker room attendants in Game 6 before they even played.
I don't know which these guys, John. I'll tell you what. Karl Anthony Towns loves to be in front of the mic. You know who loves it even more? That guy right there, Anthony. Yeah. Anthony Edwards is
I'll tell you. He said, Pete, we're going to be back here for Game 7. And they're like, you got to get through Game 6. We're going to be here for Game 7. You guys be ready because we're going to be here. And he was right. And the Denver Nuggets, last year's champs, got just plowed in that final, and they came back from a record deficit, right, Pete?
Yep. Down 20 points, and came all the way back and actually extended it. They didn't just win by one. They won by a few more than one. But unbelievable game. They had it's been an incredible series. This was the team that beat them last year early on and then went on to win the whole thing. Now you've beaten that team, so nobody's got that mantle yet. So now it's going to be really, really interesting. Is Boston going to be great? They've been great all year, but when they got to the playoffs, John, all of a sudden there's been some battles that they've had to fight through to get where they are. Now the Timberwolves, they just seem to just bounce back like I've never seen. So here's a way to look at this one, John. About a year or so ago, they traded for Rudy Gobert. And everybody was panicked, and they said this is the biggest mistake of all time. Well, maybe not, as it turns out. Maybe that was the missing piece of this team. It's the one piece that's brand new on the team. They had Naz Reid. We had Anthony Edwards. We had Big Cat. So we had all these various players. Jaden Daniels is absolutely on fire. All of our next tier guys have played really well. But here is part of the trade that still sits out there, John. 2025, first-round pick. 2026, it's a pick swap. 27, first-round pick. 29, first-round pick. Timberwolves don't have any first-round picks for quite a while. That's what I'm laying out here right now. So, but does it matter? I say no, because if you made the trade, if the trade made sense, you're pushing your team into the right direction. The difficult thing is going to be to hold on to Karl Anthony Towns, Big Cat, because you've got some salaries that are going to be awfully big, and there's going to be luxury tax issues and all the things that go with that. But all that being said, the present owner of the Timberwolves looks like he's going to be the owner a little longer. And if that's the case, John, I'd say the value of the team has gone up by anywhere close to between $500,000 and $1 billion.
$500 million and $1 billion.
Yeah, $500 million and $1 billion. So I think he's got a little bit of extra cash to maybe decide, you know what, maybe we do deal with this luxury tax like everybody else. The Timberwolves sell out. They have incredible fans, and we'll see how far they go from here. But it's going to be interesting. They got Mark Cuban's Dallas team, John. I know he sold most of it, but I think he still has a piece of it, right?
Oh, yeah. He only sold 52% or 51%. And I don't even know if those are voting, Pete. That was the Adelson family. Sheldon Adelson's wife bought in with the idea being that if she brings her stature in the gaming industry to Dallas, that Dallas may, one of the, those Bible Belt states, Pete, may actually let them have casino along with that stadium, which might make that one of the most valuable franchises in basketball. And even though Pete doesn't want to hear it, folks, I'll point out that there are probably groups putting themselves in front of the owner of the Timberwolves to say, you know what, in Vegas, this might be a $7 billion team. And the last team that Minnesota had that did that, Pete, was the Lakers.
Yep. For those who don't know about the Lakers, it's why they're called the Lakers, the land of 10,000. I'm there right now. It's funny how many people have no clue why are they the Lakers. Well, that's why. All right, John.
Not a lot of lakes in L.A.
No. Let's jump to the next one, John. We're going to do like a lot of these guys on the sports side of things will do. We're going to do something really stupid this early. Who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? Now, when I say that, you've got to look at, all right, how'd they do in free agency? What do you think is different about the team? How are they looking from the draft standpoint? Do they really fit? Can those players play? Who do you think right now, when you look at it, NFC, AFC, who do you think is going to be at the Super Bowl next year? Not necessarily win it, but who's going to be there?
Well, the 49ers still, even after losing Armstead, Pete, the 49ers are still going to be in the mix, no doubt.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll have quite as much trouble from the Seattle, but I do think the Niners, and, believe it or not, I think our Bears might actually be playing the Niners in the NFC. We'll see. I mean, when you look at the schedule, Pete, that just came out, the Bears are starting with, I think, 5 of the worst teams picked to be the worst by all these sports writers. They play 5 of them in the first 7 weeks. So could they be 7-2 or something like that? They could. Could Caleb Williams, if they start hot, everybody just talks about him as the second coming? They could. Of course, knowing our Bears, they could also fall apart. But if they have a great defense, San Francisco is going to struggle a little bit, Pete, without that big man in the middle. Yeah. I didn't see them replacing him. And, that defense, that wasn't their problem. Not that the offense was, but it was just, man, it's an oblong ball, Pete. It bounces funny sometimes.
Yep. Well, I fully agree with you on San Francisco. I actually think Parasol was a great guy. That was their first pick that they had. They went with a wide receiver from Florida. This kid is unbelievable. He's electric. They already got receivers that are great, so they're just adding to it. Oh, and by the way, they also added a running back who I think he was the fastest running back in the entire draft, a kid out of Louisville, who's very, very, he's solid, he's big enough, he's big, and he can run. I mean, so that combination, I think, adds to their offensive weapons that can really scare some defenses out there. I look at the Detroit Lions as the one who might battle them pretty good. And they tightened up their defense, John. They went cornerback, and they went cornerback, and then a round or two later, they went for a safety. So they're building up that defensive backfield just to be an absolute, unbelievable defense. They already have the front guys. Now they got the back guys. Could be pretty cool. I look at the Chiefs. You know what's interesting? Anytime, of course, you've got Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be tough, right? I mean, we just know that. But Xavier Worthy, the receiver, he's only a 4.2 flat guy who can run the 40, who's very small, but they had somebody very similar to him not too many years ago. They traded off to Miami. They've got speed, like they needed more speed or they needed more weapons, but what the heck? Give it to Mahomes. And then you got Cincy, you got the Bills. I'm going to go with Baltimore because I like what they did in the draft, John, and more so in free agency, because they actually have Derrick Henry in the backfield this year with giving the quarterback a little bit more time. I think Jackson's going to be able to not have to run as much and hand it off, and that'll give him the opportunity to run on a third down passing play. If it's there, he can do it, but he's not going to get as beat up. So I don't know. I almost think it's going to be Baltimore lined up probably against the 49ers, but maybe Detroit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I understood what you were saying about Philly with that strengthening of the defensive backfield, but yeah, we don't want to overlook Detroit. And they were a bad decision by the great coach to, they were that close, Pete, literally that close to go into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it was a gutsy call, but it was one that, the odds were not in his favor on that.
Right. Yeah.